My name is Johann Coetzee, and I'm privileged to be part of the We Read For You program, this very unique program of the University of Stellenbosch Business School. And the topic of my presentation is also the title of a book called It's About Time, in which we review the imperatives of making time for what matters most and then getting a quality of life definition. We will also challenge those so-called weaknesses within people where they succumb to a corporate call which was never there, and in that process trash the lifestyle that they actually cherish but don't have. And we will leave with people copies of the book, but also some checklists that they can drop in their toolbox for coping better with the demanding lives that we're in. And then just perhaps finally to remind people that it's never too late to be happy, notably in the world of work. I'd like to invite you onto this journey this morning as I share some of those messages that I've been taught by the people that I've tried to serve. At the risk of being arrogant, throughout my career, and I'm a psychologist, I've counseled, coached, treated just over 28,000 executives. So they are the authors of what I know, and they are the actual resource pool of everything that I purport to think I understand. I'm not trying to be pathetic or syrupy about it, that you actually cherish the fact that you have an able mind, that you are cognitively alert, that you are deductively crisp, that there's mental alertness, that it functions, that you can formulate, and that some disease of whatever kind has not invaded you perhaps yet. It's about time, and it's about getting serious about the gift of time, and to do so very quickly. In order to understand this journey a little bit, I've transposed what I think I understand about this whole psychology of time into what is the first item on your little pamphlet, and I'd like to take you through it. Up to the age of 0, what dominates in one's life on this journey is obviously the symbiotic dimension, and you're in dependence and comfort. You're living at 38 degrees C, and you're fed a balanced diet, perhaps even some prawns. And when it's time, you are plucked out of there, they snip that sauce, they spank your bum, and they say, get a life. Up to the age of 3 is the formative phase of our life. I remind you, we're busy with the journey. And this is where you get your normative construct, values, norms, principles, standards, ideology, religion, and faith. You get it at home. I was born into a Christian family. That's what you become. And if you're born into an Afrikaner family, they dress you badly. Up to 6 is the instructional phase, and you will notice the critical dimensions there. But that's where your shape, as it were, your style, your preference, your manner is inculcated. And it's best done by us if we're there. But at that point in our lives, typically, we also engage in a lifestyle of surrogacy. We can outsource everything. Somebody else can have your children, raise them, nurture them, teach them, shape them. And surrogacy means that you can insource everything and outsource most. You have knock and drop laundry, all of that. When last did you clean a pool or push a Briggs & Stratton lawnmower? We have digital dinners, you know, Mr. Pizza, etc., because you've got to get back to the iPad at 9. Just get the kids into bed because there's a serious world out there. The prescriptive lifestyle is also shaped up to the age of roughly 9. A simple example, you will only allow little Sarah to go and sleep with a friend if you're comfortable she'll cope with your absence. She will not wet her bed, have neuroses, etc., because she is shaped. There's a solidity there that is okay, and that will not cause you anguish when she's not in your home. And you'll only know that well if you were there. Up to 15 is all about identity. And this is the pre-adolescent phase, and we know it so well, and where we go extrinsic with our lifestyles. Up to 18 is about choices. We do serious things when we're impressionable and young. We take maths and science at the age of 16. We focus on a profession. It's going to be chartered, or it's going to be law or medical or 10 years gap year or whatever, but you assume a stance. 21 is about adolescence. It's when you're a little big and plenty small and in the way. And you cannot believe that your parents had you to have to relate to this lot. The family is just a bunch of retards. The drapes, the car, the neighbors, alles. You'll remember. Up to 24 is about relationships. And the relationships that you will have built are because of encounters, interfaces, people that have come around your space. Up to 30 is the vocational phase. It's the end of the first decade of your institutional life, your work life. And it's at that point where you've essentially positioned yourself, I am this is how I work. And then talent, ambition, deductive reasoning, and all those things manifest, and the world of work enjoys talent and potential. Up to 33, and it's deliberate, the 33 is an accelerator phase. This is the phase, ladies and gentlemen, in which you have extraordinary and extrapolated momentum. You just move. Up to 36 is a phase of maturation, an absolute escalation in terms of internalizing stuff that shapes you, that positions you. At 42, roughly, there's a phase that is very emotional for many people. And the fundamental reason for this phase being tentative is the fact that you have one chance once to be a parent. And this is when those kids start leaving home. And if you fluffed it, you're just in time to be too late. Early 50s, it is about alienation. And the most serious form of that alienation is where you actually step away from who you are. In other words, you actually masquerade a version of who you're not. And that's the inauthentic you. And if one's not careful, then that's where it takes you. In the mid-50s, there is a phase where one wants to consolidate the imperatives that matter in your life. Yes, people are tired at 63, and there's one reason for it in this country, and that is that because of our interesting past, the majority of everyone sitting in this room will have done 2 careers' work in one career, because we kept most of the people who could help out of it. So we did all the work. So overload was part of our heritage by design. At 66, things terminate, obviously. Work actually terminates, but a lot of the functionality of the system terminates. And with men, it's fascinating, and you will see it, that they have this huge yearning to rediscover their youth. Many men, you will see it, show more cleavage than women. People are lonely very often when they start reaching the 70 threshold, and there's one simple reason, and that is that their kids are here busier than they were. And you will know how difficult it was for you, or perhaps still is, to service parents. But those of you who have adult kids, how you yearn for your kids to service you. But they're preoccupied with a prescriptive world that is seemingly pretty unforgiving. Well, you do 2 things. Go to where your actual age is. Let's say it's 40. Go there. And now step back through every phase because you've been there. And ask one question. And that is, what is the unfinished business that you're busy lugging along that is impeding your mobility, but also your sense of fulfillment? And the second question, having resolved that, is if you take that as a particular point of departure, your vantage point, and you're aiming it wherever you're going, you've got to detect the declination. If you can do both of those aspects and discover the nature of your journey, if you can detect that, then you can purge that pus out of the process and run on better fuel. But that's introspective honesty, and it's not easy. And as you discover, and I'm suggesting it's about time, if you cherish the precious nature of time, then you will also not lie in terms of what you need to do, in terms of universal self-management and the control or the caring for the virtue that is intrinsic within you. And that is the causes of the unwellness, excessive ambition. If I were to ask you, as I do people, and I say, okay, how much talent have you got? Put it on an index. How much ambition? Talk about aspirations. Let's share your achievement motive. Where are you going? And people can't put a factor on it. They just say, I'm going to the top, or the best of me. You know, euphemisms. But why can't people actually define it? I'll just quote one person of the hundreds that I could. This is the classic example of a guy in Johannesburg who comes to me and he says, I need counseling, I need therapy, I need help from you. Please help me that I will never be happy again because I'm not good at it. He says, I've been married 4 times, I have 11 children. He's 40. He says, I'm not good at being good. Help me not to go there again. Help me to be miserable, single, and successful. I have to say to you that the 2 factors that actually corrupt incredible people are greed and ego. And they are sort of compounded or collective terms, if you wish, for many other pathologies. But if you were to look deeply, you will find that that quest for more and never really knowing what is enough drives many people into oblivion. The things that precipitate the unwellness or collapses the ethic of time, the availability of time, also includes the values and the collapse of the values. And go back to our little list. Where did you get it during your formative years? That's when you got it. And it stayed with you up to a point. Then it dissipates. Then it might leave you, or it might linger. It's dormant. And then it comes back one day and you say, but hang on, I knew this once. And I remind you of what I said earlier on. Adversity will in fact precipitate it, bring it to the fore yet again, and remind you of its virtue. One of the key issues that people suffer from is fun deprivation because of the prescriptive lifestyle that we're in. And if the world that we're in is essentially prescriptive and instructional, then when do you find freedom? If you're slavish, you're part of a feudal system. You're in slavery. You pander to a call that's never been that loud, and you sanction your abuse because you think there's something in it for you. Why would one do that? My father, who was the conventional traditionalist of note, his notion in his life when I asked him, what do you fear most? He said, to be dependent on you. And he lived a life of deprivation to provide for his old days so that he might never look somebody in the eye and ask for something. And when he died, he could have lived for another 800 years in terms of what he provided. How do you actually embrace something you love? How do you deposit meaning into their lives? How do you convert the meaningless into the meaningful? And if you don't know, find out quickly. Time is running out. And I left them by saying, I think there are 4 M's that will feature in your life, and the one's totally irrelevant. That's money, because that you have. But how about making moments, making memories, and making magic, and finding out how? In the middle of the list, you'll see enough. And it's the only point that's in italics and that is prominent, and I could spend the rest of the weeks just staying there, but perhaps just this perspective. If I don't have enough spouse in my partner, then I will supplement her extramaritally. If I don't have sufficient confidence, resolve, resilience, presence, then my inferiority will manifest as arrogance. If I don't have enough money, I'll find it in a way, and mostly by sacrificing my capacity. In other words, expending the energy that I actually don't have. You've got to find out what is enough. The message that I share with you, and certainly with myself, or as my wife says, gaan lees hy boek weer, then I would just share this thought with you in closing. And that is, that if it's about making memories and moments and the magic, and not only making the money, then there's also some sense and sensibility, and perhaps even a little bit of virtue in the notion of reprioritizing what actually matters, acquiring the courage, the courageous conversation with yourself to say no to what is irrelevant, and then to embrace what does constitute meaningful, and then to remain there. Thank you.